country school until I was, I think I was 6 years old, and I had Miss Hollenbeck for a teacher. Do you remember B. Hollenbeck?
B. Hollenbeck?
Best teacher I ever had. She was, we had big boys in school. There was Harley Foster.
Where was the school?
It was up at Straits Corners. Well, there was one beyond ours at Straits Corners. I don't know what the number of our school was, but Miss Hollenbeck was our teacher. And she drove up in her little Ford car. You could hear that coming every day. And if you were sick, she came up to the house with your homework and picked up your home. You couldn't be sick and happy. And one day she asked Arthur Briggs to go out to the woodshed and get some wood for the stove. And he said, I don't want to. And she said, I didn't hear you, Arthur. I don't want to, he said. Well,
How old was he?
oh, he was a teenager. Ready to go down to Cantor to school. Great big, it was twice as big as Miss Hollenbeck. She came down off the little platform, grabbed a book off her desk, hit him right square over the head. You never saw anything like it. Arthur brought her flowers. He brought her everything. If you want anybody to bring you stuff, hit him over the head. What a brown nose he
What year was that?
Oh, Lordy, I can't remember. It was way back in 1932, something like that. And the Fosters were there, and the Chance family went. It was Herman and Ella and Amo. I was ahead of my class. Amo was in my class, and I got better marks than he did. It's nice being in country school. There's only 2 kids in class. You're either the head or the foot.
How did you get to school?
I walked.
Walked, of course.
Walked
Now, this was down at the corner of,
of Straits Corners and Race Road.
there was a school right there.
There was a school there. Yeah.
And it varied from 2 to several.
Oh, yes, we had little ones from first grade right through to 8th grade. After 8th grade, they went downtown. But
Merritt White, was he there?
Merritt White, I remember Merritt White. You could always tell when somebody died. Merritt was around collecting money for the funeral. Yeah. But I remember Charlie. He rode on the bus. He was a little kid, and I was in high school. He was a pest. Oh, when he's little. But he is not. But anyway, I got tired of him knocking my books on the bus floor and throwing my hat back and all that stuff. So I put his hand up behind him and held him all the way until I got off the bus. And who was our bus driver? He lived down the road from us. Well, I can't think of his name, but anyway, he clapped when I went off, got off the bus. Charlie could be in trouble. Well, when I got home, my mother was watching for me. What had I done to Charlie? How do you know already? Well, Mrs. White had called over. She was going to come over and beat my mother up. She didn't make it, though. I didn't see her, but anyway, yeah, Charlie was a pain.
Tell about Bee's correspondence thing. That's neat. I like that.
Oh, yes, Miss Hollenbeck was a marvelous teacher. She went to Cornell at least once a month and picked up books and materials and diagrams and visual things for us. She was a graduate of Cornell, so she was able to get these things, I guess, on loan from the college. And she also had us write to Germany and all the European countries. She found that a student over in those countries that would correspond with us. And we would write to the Switzerland and Holland and all over. It was very interesting. You get letters back.
Did you give your Christmas presents?
Oh, yes. Everybody got Christmas presents. I don't know how much.
Not
she
nickel and
spent.
dime stuff.
No, no, and everybody got the same value. If yours didn't cost as much, Nancy, as Don's did, then she put in a pencil or some thing that didn't cost very much to equal what Don got, what his present cost. Oh yeah, she was very
Generous.
very generous, very meticulous. Took us on picnics and on hikes. We went on a hike up to where they had beehives. And we're studying that. And the darn bees came out and I got stung right straight. Well, it didn't bother me too much then. But the next morning I woke up, I couldn't open my eyes. That was a little terrifying. I remember letting out a few good whoops.
You went to the 8th grade?
No, I went to 7th grade.
7th grade.
I came 8th grade down here.
Did you have more than one teacher?
Up on the hill, no, I had Miss Hallenbeck. All the way through.
All the way
Yeah.
Was the bus driver named Clifford Bastion or James?
No, Cliff Bastion did, but there was Ed Poole that lived on down past where Don and Bayonne lived. Hannah.
Oh,
Hammond.
Hammond. Oh.
Yeah, he was the one.
Ed Hammond.
He was very glad to see Chuck get his comeuppance.
How old were you when your father bought the car that wanted to teach your mother how to drive?
Oh, that was before I was born.
Oh, so how do you know the story?
Well, the story, I saw pictures of the barn. Between the shop and the barn, there used to be a fence and a gate. And I said to Mother, how come Dad didn't fix that? And she said, well, I took care of that. He came home with a car. I think he bought it at Vandenberg's. And this is all what I heard. And brought it home, and he was going to teach her. And Mother didn't think Dad would, that was a good idea. And he explained the pedals and the stuff. And so he went out to the barn to do chores. She hopped in the car and took the fence down first. And then went on around.
Did she ever get her driver's license?
Oh, yes, yeah. In fact, when she was dying, all of a sudden she thought she better have her driver's license renewed. And I took it down and got it renewed. She was in good standing when she passed away. Yeah, I can remember one time, I think Priscilla Miller was up visiting, and we were taking Priscilla home, and a fox came out on the road, and Mother chased the fox with a car. Oh, we had a up the hill that day. Close enough so we could see that fox.
So when did you start coming down to the village at the spinning wheel? In the summer? Summers, right? But
No, in the summertime, the spinning wheel was a restaurant, and Kitty Bennett ran the restaurant. Goldie worked in it, and in the wintertime, we came down and stayed there. Lived there in the winter.
The restaurant was closed in the winter.
Huh?
Was the restaurant closed in the winter?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And the car went up on on jacks and stuff, so we didn't have a car. And, the horses, they were big, and the, sleigh and the wagon and stuff, if they got excited, they would hit their hooves on the back and excite themselves more, and you'd
Good
have
Lord.
quite an exciting ride.
Now, that was, you sort of rented a room or something?
I
At the
rent-
spinning wheel, did you rent a room or did you stay with
Yeah, the
someone?
whole thing.
We lived in the house.
Oh, the whole house?
Yeah,
Your whole family, right?
yeah.
So who did the chores?
Yeah, who did the
Joe
chores?
hired me and did the
Oh,
chores.
of course, no.
Oh dear.
I guess Dad went up the day, I don't remember. I remember one time, he also had the GLF, where Warden Vanscoy, well, it isn't Warden Vanscoy anymore, what is it?
Well,
Cromart?
somebody else.
Oh, my.
Home Central.
Homart or Home Central, whatever. Where that is, Dad had a feed and GLF and sold machinery. And I can remember one day going over with Dad to there, and there was an owl in the tree, and I never could see anything. Haven't improved any. And he said, "There's that owl," and I went, "Where?" He picked up a stone, said, "Follow that stone." And he hit that owl right in the He was as surprised as I was. He couldn't have done that again. But that bird fell down, and I don't know whether it was dead or not.
Sort of.
But it was stunned anyway, that was for sure.
Was your father born locally?
No, Dad was born down in Letonia, Pennsylvania, which doesn't exist today. It was a lumbering town,
Just dried up and flew away.
flew away. Yeah.
And mother,
My mother was born in Pennsylvania
she was
too,
down there.
Potter Brook. Real big cities. They met in Michigan.
How'd that work out?
Dad went out, followed his father out there to timber. And mother's grandfather went there, got a grant of land from the Civil War. And
Okay.
so they went out and settled in Michigan, and mother was teaching school and that bad.
When did your dad buy the farm? What year?
He was on the train coming down at the night that First World War was declared. So he bought it prior to that. He
Nice.
wanted to be down in this area so he could get to Washington and New York and Chicago within a day's time.
You
Yes.
buy it from Ferguson? 400 acres, pretty big?
Well, it ended up, he added some land that was over 600 acres.
It was pretty big to start with though.
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember that.
Ferguson had accumulated quite a lot of land.
I remember a house being explained to me. When you went in the back door, they had enlarged the kitchen because there'd been 4 rooms there, 4 little rooms, and they stacked milk pails and milk strainers and all kinds of things, I guess, for making cottage cheese and their butter and whatever. And then the hired men that worked for Mr. Ferguson slept upstairs in a big room over the kitchen and those storage rooms. Then there was a solid wall between the dining room and upstairs, so the hired people couldn't get over upstairs over to
Yes.
the family. And that was taken out, so. But I found that interesting.
Why did your father want to be within an hour of these big cities? Was that when he was selling machinery, or was that?
No, it was because he liked to go to plays and musicals and things like that. And he liked to be where he could get someplace. And then he was going to go to Cornell, and he went to the University of Michigan instead because his father moved to Michigan and changed his plan. But he came up and did his last year of high school, I think, in Ithaca, preparing to go into Cornell.
But he didn't go to Cornell.
No, he went to the University of Michigan.
Well, jumping ahead a little bit, how about the story of when you came home with the kids from overseas? And there was no running water in the house.
Came home with kids.
They were little, I understand.
Oh, I think you're talking about the time that Dad and Mother would kind of pick on each other to get things done. And Dad would wait around to see what Mother's gonna do to make him move and do what she wanted. And I was home visiting, I think this is what you're referring to. And I had the Norman skip. And all of a sudden, you turn on the water and it looks sort of yellow. Well, seems that Dad had put a trench silo in, and it was affecting our spring. So he had to carry water. There was a well that furnished the barn, so I had to carry water for baths and the washing machine and all that stuff. And you know those old milk pails are heavy to begin with, putting anything in them, it's terrible. Well, like that time, the cleanest kid went in first and carried wasn't got to carry any more water than I did. Oh, kid, it was awful. And Mother, I went out to the spring house, and I had that green scuzzy stuff on. I gathered a little of that for Mother, she wanted it. So, and I'll never forget, we had ham for supper. And she decorated his, usually he served, but that night it was served from the stove in. And I said to Mother, you don't suppose that'd make him sick, do you?
Good allergy?
No,
No,
don't
it's
make his
okay.
cow sick. It won't. He never said a thing.
Did he eat it?
He scraped, well, he did scrape the green off the ham and stuff. Yeah, he ate his dinner. But
Do you
right
realize
after
what it
dinner, right after dinner, he got on the phone. And Mother had said, before noon tomorrow we'll have water, clean water. He did. I don't- He got right on the phone and got that. Yeah, that was, well, we probably still had that water if she hadn't have done that. It didn't move.
They drill a new well?
No, there was a well out to the
Oh.
barn.
They just piped
And
it
we
in?
had the good spring water, we thought. Anyway. Just had to dig a trench to put water into the house.
Well, he was probably pretty busy and he didn't get around to it.
Yeah. And,
Everybody was afraid what breakfast
well, why
might
did
be.
he? Yeah, what he got for breakfast?
He had green eggs and
Well, wasn't he sort of used to primitive things because he worked in a lumber camp? He was a foreman when he was just a kid, wasn't he, out there in Michigan?
Well, when he was 14, his father sent him out with a crew of men, and he was to tell the crew, they were to build railroad tracks a spur into the woods so they could pile the lumber on, and he gave Dad the job of taking the men out and building. And it was over the summer, and he wanted to go to the 4th of July doings, and his father told he better go out to the woods and work. Dad said no. He went to the 4th of July doings. I think
Trouble. Trouble, sounds like trouble.
Yeah, but his father let him get away with it.
You
I
probably
don't think
wasn't
they'd have
paying,
let me get away with it. I'd gotten the yardstick.
this was down to Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
4th of July was a big,
big day, and they had the greased pig. We never had a greased pig here. Does anybody ever remember having a greased
Oh,
pig
yeah.
here?
yeah, oh yeah.
Always had them in the fairs.
In Kinder?
Yes, I can
Yeah.
remember.
Fair always had a
Kinder.
grease pig
In,
contest.
60s,
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
50s,
50s,
Mardi Gras.
yeah.
oh, Mardi Gras, okay.
Oh, they had a greased pig.
Yeah, I've got a slide that I took of Mayor Butterfield,
Oh, my God.
Robert Butterfield, overseeing the pig chase.
I was thinking we had those men.
And there's these little kids, I can't tell you all who they were. There was Wayne Richards was one of them. So, and then they're all lined up ready to chase the pig.
Catch the grease pig.
Catch the greased pig.
I don't remember who got it. It was, I think it was a Storms boy, but I'm not sure. And I have a picture of him holding it. He's got he's got his arms wrapped right around it.
It was not a tiny, tiny pig, it was sort
No,
of,
it was pretty good size.
It was a pretty good
yeah.
sized pig.
Well, of course, the kids were small. So
Yeah, but the pig was kind of big.
It looked a little bigger.
Mary
I
Lou,
never saw that.
Mary Lou, you were telling me the other day about your mother didn't like you dawdling coming home from school?
Oh, no. But there was a wintergreen patch that was awfully tempting to stop and eat wintergreen. And, Ralph Twilliger and Jean, and the three of us went down to school. And we monkeyed it on the way home. And, she came down with her trusty yardstick. And as she rounded the horse barn, Bob Twilliger was in the barn, and he said, "Give it to Ralph too." She swung at Ralph, but she missed. She didn't miss me.
did it help?
What?
You were more tardy the next day. I mean, you were more
Yes, I was, yeah.
faster the next day.
I didn't really care for the yardstick. She always got you right around the calf of your
How
leg,
old were
and
you?
that hurts.
Because you should be able to outrun her.
Yeah, it didn't do
But she
any
catch
good.
you.
She could be making jam or something, and I do something, she said, "Before you go to bed."
Oh,
And I think, well, that's fine. Forget it. Never. Never. So it didn't do no good to run, because
You always had to come back.
I always had to come back. Just
Mother was
stand
good?
there and take.
mother was a good cook?
Pardon?
Mother was a good cook?
Yes, I thought she was, but I don't think that everybody would agree with you. She was very fussy about having her roasts and stuff, so when you sliced into them, you had a nice little blood run out and stuff. 20 minutes a pound, any more.
That's not bad now.
You get it too well done. And she didn't know for years that the silo fillers and the thrashers didn't like their meats that rare. And then finally she overheard somebody say, "Mrs. Ray put on a good dinner,
But
but she didn't know how to cook her meat."
that didn't go over well. Did
Well,
she change?
Yeah, she thought it was funny. Here she'd been struggling for years to make sure that meat wasn't overdone.
Did she change?
What?
Did she change her methods?
I don't know, it was getting to be combine time, I think, and I didn't have the big silo things. Did anybody know Bump Holland? I don't know what his real first name was. He was a big man, and he used to stay with his sister, come to his sisters in Straits Corners and stay during harvesting season, and he always would be there for the corn and the grains and so forth. Well, he used to stop up at the
CCC camp?
CCC
Yeah.
camp and have a beer on his way home to his Mrs. Severs, with his sister, I think. Anyway, he got in an argument there. He stopped to talk to Mother after dinner before he went back out in the field. And he said he'd stopped down to have a beer, and he said this great big black guy stood there and reached and he took Buck's beer. Well, he said you can make a mistake once, so he ordered another one, and he took it again. Took the second one. So she said, what happened? And he said, well, I hauled off and I hit him on. And Mother said, what happened? Well, did he fall? Did he fall? If he hadn't have fallen, I'd gone around to see what the hell was holding him.
That was Dave Holland's son?
I don't know, he was a
Was that Mildred Seaver's brother?
Mrs. Severs, yeah, was his sister, and he used to say,
Okay.
Mrs. Severs.
Yeah, okay.
he
His
was,
father's name was Dave.
His nose was rearranged on his face.
I never knew
And
it.
a story that I heard was, he got in a fight and somebody took the ice dogs
Whoa.
and
Did you know him, Ron?
No.
Did you
just
remember?
That was Mildred's brother.
Right, Dave Holland.
Yeah.
Dave Holland. They lived right, the last house on Tolan Road there.
yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, he was an awfully nice man.
I never
He
knew
did
him.
look unusual.
Did you ever have any contact with the Canfields?
When we knew the man that ran it and his wife and son, but not well. I went down with my folks and went through it. And I remember there was a crew that came up and worked one time, 1 week maybe, in the woods from the camp. But they weren't there terribly long. And of course, I wouldn't, my parents would see that I wouldn't get mixed up down there.
No, I was referring to Dr. Canfield.
Canfield
Canfield.
Garden.
Oh, down Canfield Gardens?
Yeah, I didn't know whether you ever had any contact with them when you were living in the village.
We, not very much, but I remember Doc Canfield, and one night they were up at Chase's. Maud and Ernest with it, Chase,
Yeah.
were having a party. It invited different ones for dinner.
Barbara was about your age.
Oh, Barbara was older.
Was she older?
Yeah. And Maud had difficulty having things all get cooked at the same time. And people would get real hungry out there, and I remember Doc Canfield was giving me a nickel apiece to go in and steal food and bring out.
You knew the Bennetts quite well.
Yeah, I used to go down to Bennett's a lot.
The big house on
Where the vet is.
Which house?
The vet is.
The vets.
Where the vet is.
where the.
Oh.
You knew the Bennetts,
Animal
didn't you?
fear.
Yes, you did.
I'm just a young kid. The Bennett, yeah.
Hmm?
I was down the lower end of town.
I know it. And there was a big difference between the upper
I
and
didn't-
lower village.
Well, I didn't
I
get up
very
there.
seldom ever got down to the lower village.
Well, I had to go up there to John Marks to get my hair cut. That's about it.
Oh, John Marks, I guess I gave my mother fits about washing my hair. She took me up there. He washed my hair and I bellered like anything, I guess.
John, I didn't realize he washed ladies' hair.
Mother said, don't worry about it. No sympathy there.
No, well, school, after school, then what? You went to college?
Yeah, I went up to Cortland. They could tell I was a country girl.
They didn't make fun of you, did they?
Huh?
They didn't make fun
No,
of
I would do things that, and they'd remind me I was a country girl.
Yeah.
Going down the street, you know, the horn would blow and I'd.
Hello?
What are you doing? I said, you don't know those people. Well, in theater, I knew everybody. The horn blew and I waited.
Look, wait first, look afterwards.
I do dumb things like that. They could tell I was a country girl.
Where was your first teaching assignment?
Up in Endwell. Up the
Big
Triple
city
Cities.
again,
Hmm?
another big city.
At the Hooper
Yeah.
School?
Hooper School,
That was a new school when you went in there.
yeah. And Mrs. Brown was there too.
Nina?
Nina?
Not Mrs. Brown.
A local girl.
Mrs. Brown that taught music over here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, Marion.
Marion Brown. She taught there and she and I taught there at the same time.
And then she came to Vestal after that.
Oh, she did?
Yeah. She taught at Vestal when George and I were there.
How long were you at Candor?
Pardon?
How long were you at Candor teaching?
Oh, mercy.
Long time.
A long time.
I know she had some guinea pigs that she used.
I was there almost 20 years, yeah.
Was it?
And 18, I think.
Yeah, well, I know my girls loved you,
Yeah.
especially Cindy.
You tried to get back to Cantor.
Well, I always had a soft spot in my heart for Candor. And Candor folk, they're all
Good folk.
good folks, tell you like it is. Don't
Sometimes
try
you don't wanna
fool
hear
them.
it.
Huh?
Sometimes you don't wanna hear it.
That's true.
From Enwell, you came here?
From Endwell, I got married and then I went to Jersey. I taught in Jersey, and that was an experience.
New Jersey.
Yeah. They didn't believe in discipline. You couldn't put your hand, well, it was starting here too. You
Yeah,
couldn't
can't
put your
be
hand.
beating them kids up?
Yeah. And, so I would, I had them, I'd make a circle on the blackboard. If they misbehave, go up there and stick your nose in it. Stand on their tiptoes and hold their nose in there.
How'd that work?
Pretty good
Worked
until the
pretty good.
superintendent of school said that was corporal punishment.
Now, did you go overseas?
Yeah, went to Germany,
What city?
Nuremberg.
Nuremberg.
Lived in Nuremberg, yeah. So, boy, is it dirty over there compared to the United States. You could see stuff floating through the air. You could reach up and grab a piece of dirt. Yeah. It was terrible. They burned soft coal and stuff. There was always stuff floating
Oh,
in the
them
air.
briquettes. They had them briquettes cheap. Germans are cheap.
What years were you over there, Germany?
Let's see, I was over there in 55 to 57.
You didn't teach while you were there, though, did you?
No, I didn't teach in Germany.
Then you went to Japan, didn't you?
Yeah. Skip was born in Japan. Went there first. I liked that better than I did Germany. Germany, well, when we got our place to stay, there were two keys to the front door, and 2 keys to the apartment, and 2 keys to the bedroom, 2 keys to the bathroom, 2 keys to the kitchen, everything. And I
Gee.
said, what are you, and I had a keychain like
Yes.
that.
Those
And I
gypsies
said,
come by.
Why? Well, I took Norma out of the stroller and took her in the house, and by the time I got back, all I did was set her down in the house. The stroller was gone. They'd steal clothes out, you couldn't put them on the clothesline. Oh, I didn't like it. And then they were always saying, go home, go home. And I was just saying, gee, I wish I could get there.
Where did you live in Japan?
In Japan, I lived in Tokyo. Yeah. And we were went up to Nagano, stayed up in a hotel up there for a while, and driving up, we lost a hubcap on our car. You know, they sent it up. The Japanese found it, and they sent it up. They inquired, and gee, they were great, I thought.
How long were you there?
I was there 18 months. They were I never saw a person, a beggar or anything like that. There was one day a year that veterans could come out, or did come out, and it was a designation day for donations for veterans. But you never saw anybody. Everybody was always working, and they did a lot of with art. You'd see groups of kids out painting pictures of buildings and parks and so forth. And they didn't discipline their children like we do. They would scare them. Put something down and light it, and it would burn, a little light, and they would threaten them if you don't behave, they'd put it on their arm.
Whoa.
And I thought that was mean.
They did,
And
or they
thought
threatened?
I licked Skip one day, and you should have seen the supper I got. Plop, plop, plop. Usually it was all fancy and sort of a picture in itself, but not that night.
Your cook didn't like what you did?
What I did to the baby. I slapped his hands.
You remember, Mary Lou, your dad was a big, how can I describe this? He was passionate about the Dairymen's League.
Oh my
yes.
gosh.
And he was kind of a disciple for the Dairymen's League, the old Farmers Cooperative.
Yeah. And he'd go around, and he could tell every farmer who was and who wasn't. Darn good farmer.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's it.
I was secretary for his Dairyman League group, the
Yeah.
Kansas group. And
I went to a lot of those meetings for the ice cream.
Yeah, yeah. Ice cream, always had ice cream.
Always have ice cream, yeah.
Soda crackers. Plenty of it.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
How big was the farm? How many cows you have? Your father?
I don't know, I had a disagreement with a cow early on.
Oh.
So she didn't have any.
After that.
I wanted to milk, and of course you milk from one side only,
Oh, okay.
and I wanted to be right next to Dad.
You were left-handed or something?
No, I wanted to be back to back with Dad, and he told me not to, but I did. That didn't mean anything.
You knew
Cow
better.
kicked me right in the forehead,
Jeez.
and I could see my dumb forehead by the time I got down to the house. Screaming all the way. I never was very fond of those damn cows. Yeah, cows are out.
How many hired men do you have?
One.
Just one.
How many farmers had a hired man back then? It was the wife that did the work.
Well, you should see Mother bought the barn. If she had to come out and get Dad for something, and the barn floor apparently was laid one half, and then the other end there's a crack down the middle. Boy, she could walk right down that. She's really. And she never could understand why they made it so that all the back ends were.
But the women were their hired men.
So
No,
you
Mother
went,
was, but it had nothing to do with the cows. If Dad would tell her to stand here, he's gonna drive the cows up, okay, she'd stand there. Soon as he went to drive the cows up, she ran. I'm not standing there, have those cows come at me.
Well, my mother did all the farm work, milked all the cows, and raised all of us kids. And she's told that there was 3 of us at a time in potato crates while she did milking. Dad worked on the road, building all these roads. So,
Well, my mother didn't go to the barn. She raised turkeys for a time.
yeah.
And sold turkeys. But anything, I guess, bigger than a turkey, she didn't.
And they can be miserable at times.
Yeah, they can.
who were your classmates in high school? Can you remember some of them?
Oh, sure. The Butterfields were in our school with us, and Corky Marshall, and Dorothy Marshall, and Howard Weber was in. Howard Weber was in school with me.
He's over there.
Oh, I'm
Tell us
sorry,
about
I
Howard
can't see.
Weber.
If you're on my left, I can't see at all.
Tell us about Howard Weber.
Very quiet boy.
Very quiet.
Still is.
Still are.
I graduated in
Good
39.
student?
What?
I graduated in 39.
You graduated in 39
So did I.
with Keen Ward then?
Yeah.
You were a graduating class and I was coming into 8th grade. And I was scared of you. I'd step right aside when you came down the hall.
I don't know where she got that from.
So 39. That's before the addition? When did they put the addition on? 39? 38?
37.
37.
36 and 37, they put the auditorium on.
Yeah, we had the auditorium.
So you were there when they were building that?
It was all completed.
Oh, it was all done.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mr. Tim McCoy was our gym teacher.
Tim McCoy.
He was a physical education teacher, yeah.
Tim McCoy.
And then we had Mr. Vedder.
I remember better.
I
You
saw Tim McCoy several years, well, when I was going to school up at Cortland. Mother had come up to spend the weekend and I was waiting for a cab. Mother wouldn't let me walk home after dark in the city.
Well, you never know.
Well, I really didn't want to walk alone up there. I'd prefer if somebody with me. But anyway, we were waiting for a cab and we're in the hotel lobby and I started laughing and this man went by the door and then he backed up and looked in and he said,
Who are
"Is
you?"
that Mary Lou Rage?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I could recognize your laugh." And he was with Boy Scouts then. He left teaching and coaching and gone into Boy Scouts. But that was a
State
surprise.
organization?
Pardon?
The state organization, federal organization?
No.
No,
county,
just local.
What do you call it?
Council.
Council.
Council has paid,
Louis Agassiz Fuertes Council.
Right.
you enjoyed school?
Yeah.
Who were your teachers?
Pardon?
Who were your teachers?
Well, it was Miss Houndbeck was the first one. Miss Acknor was the first one I had.
Yeah.
And I had disagreements with her right from the get-go.
Lucy Gooding?
I had Lucy Gooding.
Everybody had Lucy
Yeah,
Gooding.
I like Lucy Gooding.
Who had Lucy Gooding here?
I did.
Jace!
I didn't ever.
You don't count. Everybody had.
How long was Henry Vedder at Gator?
Oh, he was there quite a few years.
He left in 48,
Was that when he left, 48?
end of the 48, 49 year.
There was, I think, there was a problem.
Yeah.
He left.
Did you always teach phys ed?
No, I
He was ahead of his time.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly,
When
yeah.
I graduated, health.
Well, that could be anything.
Phys ed, and then I got health.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Why did you decide on that field? Do you have any idea? I mean, did your
Well,
other teachers?
what could you do at that thing? You could be
Oh, was that right?
secretary, you could teach school.
Nurse?
And you could be a nurse. I don't like the sight of blood. I don't like to sit still all the time. So I'd be really no choice. When I was too tall, I would have gone into being an airline hostess if I could have. In the 60s, early 60s, I think.
Okay. Because this story I'm going to tell is 40 years too late, but you may remember this. It was in December in the late 60s. I was hunting with, I always hunted with his friend Moose Condon.
Yeah.
He was a big, huge moose. And we started out one December morning, there had been a fresh snow, and we started on the back of my property, and down behind Winnick's, where Marty Condon lives now, the old Paul Winnick farm,
Yeah.
we hit a deer. And unfortunately, we hit it in the back, the hind leg of the deer, in a way that didn't break its leg, but caused it to make a unique track in the snow. It was a kind of a real cold morning. It snowed 5 or 6 inches, so there was a nice fresh snow. And we started, this was about 8:50 in the morning. We started, the deer went down, went over by Osaski's, went over just south of Bob's land, hooked over on the backside of Williams. And by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it was down in your pines, down at the base of that.
How many miles is that?
It's quite a ways. And, Moose was a huge man. He was probably weighed 240 or 50 pounds. And I can still remember him because he had to start shedding clothes when we got, and he would tie his clothes around. He had a big coat and he'd tie it around, and we huffed and puffed and puffed. We know it was getting dark, and I said, well, he said, well, what do we do now? I mean, he lived at that time, I think, in Owego or
Wherever knows way.
I said, well, I know these people here. We'll just go up over the hill, and then we'll just call home, and I'll have somebody at my house come over. I lived at the time up on the hill. So we go up, and there was Mary Lou and Jerry, and as you can imagine, they were perfect hosts and hostess, and they really took care of us. Moose was real happy about that. We went in, and Mary Lou treated us great, and we spent an hour chatting and having very good.
I would have taken you home, but you wanted Brenda.
No. One of my cousins came. I can't remember who came.
I don't
One of my
drive
kids.
you.
One of my kids or someone came and got me. But I want to thank you for treating us good. Moose and I talk about this
Well, I enjoyed
because
it.
that
I
isn't the end of
remember
the.
that. I think I
You get the
told
deer?
you about
No, it isn't the end of the story. We came back the next morning,
Oh, really?
and we had them bring us back and
Where's
drop
the
us
deer?
off. We went down over the hill. We picked up the track again, and we shot the deer the next day at 11:30, just a short ways from where it started.
That's
Yeah.
something.
That was a great story. But part of it was the way you treated us.
Well, I remember I was correcting papers. I was glad to get out of that.
You must have had.
yet?
Pardon?
Did Moose retire?
Moose is still working. He lives in Washington now, yeah. Yeah.
You must have had Clara Strong. Very much, yeah.
Everybody.
Everybody was Clara Strong, yeah.
My new ones.
Tell us,
I
tell,
had Miss Van Louven. Did anybody have Miss Van Louven?
Miss Parker.
Miss Parker.
Miss Parker.
I've heard him tell about him.
This Stahl
Ross Ames.
and
Was
Miss
she
Kennedy.
homemaking?
No, that was Blackburn. Miss Stahl was typing and Kennedy was history.
Miss Stahl,
Oh,
she
Miss
went to
Kennedy,
Vestal.
yes.
We had a Stahl at Vestal. There was-
Celia?
Anna Kennedy. Well, she, Stahl was a business teacher.
Yep.
I bet she must have come to.
When did they give up the school that you went to?
Miss Kennedy
When
never
I-
married.
When I came down to 8th grade, they closed the school.
1930.
39.
Georgia, 39, they
Yeah,
closed the
38
mall.
or 39.
39.
Closed the mall in 39. Yeah.
not quite.
3 were told.
We gave ours up before that because I graduated in 39.
Some went earlier, some went
I think
later,
ours
but a
was-
big chunk went 39.
Prospect Valley,
Give some
Callan
pride
Hill
to
went longer. Callan Hill went longer.
Dry Brook,
Dry Brook.
I don't want Calvin Hill for
they stayed for a while.
ours.
When you came down to stay in town in the winter, did you go to school in town
Yeah, and that's when I had Miss Acknor.
She lived right across the road.
Acknor, or Mrs. Acknor, and I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, her maiden name
And
was
just
Kyle.
the whole thing. I don't know why they sent me down there. We had 4 people at home could read. No, I didn't want to read. 4 of them already. And sit down, and I had, of course, I had no kids to play with. And I went to school, and I had a room full of kids, and they wanted me to sit. And I played, not run around and talk to these kids.
Well, they didn't understand.
They didn't understand
No.
anything.
Are you getting tired?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Mary Lou, tell us about the time your mother was letting you drive down to Straits Corners.
Oh, yeah. There was a little grocery store in Straits Corners and a post
Still
office.
is.
Myra Duff.
And,
What's his
we
name?
had to get, pardon?
What was the name?
Myra Duff.
Mr. Duff?
Yeah.
Had it. It was Duff. Myra was, I don't know
Myra
what
was her
Mr.
name.
Duff's name was. But anyway.
Will.
Willie.
Will.
Will?
Will and Myra.
Well, we went down there to get some bread or something for, mother let me drive. Going around the corner by Stangles.
Did you have your license?
Nope.
Didn't know what that was.
Well, my father wouldn't let me get a license until I could have one for driving day or night. None of this junior crap. And he sent me downtown to get things. I'd go down to Mr. Whitcomb's to have things soldered,
Eddie
welded
Whitcomb,
and stuff.
welded?
No license, no nothing. And Jake stopped over and he said one time, "Are you on an errand for your father?" And I said, "Yeah."
Okay.
That was it. That's I went home with whatever I come down with. But he was adamant I couldn't have a license to monkey around with that junior stuff.
Yet you could drive illegally.
I could drive illegally, huh? Yeah, better take this down.
Great old.
So anyway, you were driving down to Straits Corners.
Oh, and we went on Stangles, the corner there by Stangles. The Wrights lived there at the time. Mr. Wright?
Yeah.
He must have been related to Merritt.
Right
And,
road.
yeah, Wright Road. And there was a little stone in the road. Only one. I was good enough to hit it. Mother thought I was doing it. She said, "Well, one stone in the road and you couldn't avoid it." Oh, dear. Well, I had my eye on the stone anyway.
Mother did not, she didn't get her license?
Mother?
Yeah.
Oh, she had a
Oh,
license.
she did.
Yeah, she had a license, but.
So you were 16 and anxious to drive?
Probably was 18, she had to wait that long.
How long before you get senior license? 18, wasn't it?
Probably 18.
And I
This was
I
prior.
couldn't, I'd been driving all this time, and Dad hated to drive. So if we were going someplace, he'd say, you drive. So I drove in Elmira, I drove in Owego, I drove in...
Can't have a license.
Can't have a license, so I'm not gonna mess around with that damn junior stuff. Here's something else. And he let Norma drive the same way. You know, he didn't wanna drive, get in and drive. Well, I wanted her to know how to drive when she was with her grandfather, because I thought, well, what if he had a stroke or a heart attack or something? She ought to know how to turn the key off and take it out of gear and all that. Well, he'd had her drive.
Is Norma older than this kid?
No, she's younger. She's 4 years younger.
I forgot.
What?
Your daughter, I forgot about
Oh.
Yeah.
her. What branch of service was your husband?
Infantry.
He had a company?
Yeah.
He retired, he enjoyed it and retired.
Yeah.
Didn't like Germany.
No, I didn't care for Germany.
Was your money, the exchange rate was pretty good there, wasn't it? A dollar
4
did-
marks stood out.
4 marks to a dollar. Now it's 1.5?
Well, in Japan, it was 360 yen to the
Yeah.
dollar. That was fun.
Was he a career soldier?
No, he got out and went into working up at the bank in Ithaca. Yeah, Ithaca. Yeah.
Well, he
He's a
stayed in a
courier.
while. He stayed in a few years though.
Oh, yes.
10, 15?
I think he was in 15 years, yeah.
You were saying they were giving him a hard time about something?
Well, they wanted him to go to college, and he didn't want to go to college.
They wanted to get him educated. He wouldn't have no part of it. Okay.
Okay, Howard.
Okay.
They
Anything,
had put in some kind of,
Was he a captain?
all right, anyone else got anything they want to ask Mary Lou about? It's getting on close to 9.